Good afternoon, folks. This is Fred Campos, owner of DFW Website Designers. It is a wonderful Saturday, April the 9th, 2022. This is episode number 364 of your 3 business tips at 3 o'clock in and around 3 minutes. If you're just joining me for the very first time, we're in a week-long series talking about taxes. Very appropriate as we get to the middle of April here. Solopreneurs, small business owners, there are lots of different deductions that you can take, and we've been reviewing a few of them from a very high level. Of course, I think you should have a certified public accountant to help you do your taxes because your side hustle or small business is such that it's probably too complicated to do yourself. And we're just going to hit the very, very high notes of things that you should just make sure you put together for your accountant. We're going to talk today about contract labor or employees, home office deductions, and rent. There are more than a dozen different deductions that you should be getting together on a list for your accountant to evaluate for your particular small business. But business tip number 1 is everybody you employ, whether you pay them on a W-2 or a 1099, or you're like me and use virtual assistants and 1099 employees, contract labor, or staff. All of that is completely deductible. Their salaries, their 1099s, their income that you pay them is a deduction from your business expense. Now, of course, you would never forget to deduct this, so I just list that as our first tip. Business tip number 2, though, is start gets into things that you may forget. For those of you like myself that have a room in your house from which you use exclusively for your home office, which I highly recommend for those that are starting out or doing side hustles, you can deduct a portion of the square footage of that, your utilities or whatnots. Now, be very, very careful. This is something you definitely want to talk to your accountant about. For most of us, things have pivoted a little differently. I highly recommend maybe having an office as close to your house as possible. Very low rent, maybe a little space where you go do. There's lots of reasons why you'd want to go there, usually more productive than most of getting outside the house. But whatever your office space is or your home office, that is a deduction to take into consideration as well. Business tip number 3 is just what I alluded to. If you have rent at another location or you have a storefront, you can deduct everything associated with that, both the rent, the utilities, everything required, the phones to make all of that happen. Those are all business expenses. By the way, a little bonus tip here. If you do have an office that's outside of your home, let's say you're like me and when I started out, I had young kids, so it didn't make sense for me to work out of the house. And you want to get that office as close as possible because you can't deduct the mileage, as we talked about yesterday, from your home to that office, but from that office to see clients, you can. So you want to keep those things as close as possible. So this is just a continuation of series. We'll talk about more deductions tomorrow. Anything I learn, I throw over the fence to you. You want to take as many deductions as possible to lower your taxable expenditures and exposure. And I want you guys to be awesome. Now go back to sleep.